like when I met him for the first time, you felt like you knew him for years. He treated you as if you all had been lifelong friends. And so just a quick background about him, he was born in Oklahoma. When he started getting into radio, he was working out in Los Angeles, Television City for CBS Radio. He was so nice. He invited me to his house for the interview. I spent a couple hours there. We looked at old pictures that he had and just an amazing life story of the things he went through. But more specifically, to me, one of the most interesting things that he covered was the JFK assassination.
For me, I'm more of like the front end of it.
I'm just making it up. Of a similar nature or character.
JMKast. JMKast.
But we get shocked often by Chris.
You Google my name, it always pulls up Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligan. That's another story for another time, though.
God, I want to go play cards now.
Who are you?
Rick Mulligan back.
I am Greg T. Johnson. We have a third. I need to turn it up.
Oh my God.
Hey, who's out there on podcast land? Who's out there?
Christopher Palmer.
Oh, I know that guy.
Oh, are you kin to that golfer Arnold Palmer?
No, I always wish that I was, just because he's famous, and to say that I could be related to him, that would be awesome. But no, unfortunately not.
Well, you can smack sticks with balls too. Just go to a driving range.
Do you have your own drink named after you? Like, can I go to the bar and go, I want a Christopher Palmer?
No, there is no drink named after me.
Oh, well, you need to work on that.
I'm sure. Arnold Palmer.
Hey, anyway, we're the JMKast, and it's actually November 2nd. And
is it?
Yeah. We took a little break.
Oh, yeah.
People, when they do hear these again, we took a little sabbatical, not a long one, but a little one. And,
I was adventuring through Michigan.
This is the best thing about podcasts is, if you need to take a break, you can.
Yeah, you take a break. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, we'd done 25 episodes before we missed one.
Exactly.
That's a good...
I mean, we could have actually still done one. Like, minus the Wi-Fi. But I could have done one. I would have just been by myself.
Me trying to upload... Okay, let's run through the quick adventure. Me trying to get one episode uploaded. I'm at my uncle's house, and I put it on, and it said it was going to take 577 hours. And I was like, no. So then I go to Starbucks.
Like Christmas happens and we still don't have it.
I go to Starbucks and Starbucks tells me it's going to take 72 hours. I'm like, no. I go to my cousin's. I hard plug my computer. Still takes 13 hours. So Michigan's internet system is not quite as good as what we have down here.
Is it Michigan or is it where in Michigan?
It's probably a combination of all of those elements. But Michelle tried finding an internet cafe for me. She's like, I'm going to find you an internet cafe. And I'm like, fine. Every internet cafe. We drove to the place, closed. Not open anymore. I was just like...
But you went to AT&T and you told me they told you could sit down.
Yeah, they said if I needed to come back, I could.
Which I told you,
and
that is what you should have done.
Well, yeah, and going forward will happen. Anyway, so that was my adventure with one of our podcast files.
Hey, Chris, what have you been doing?
Getting over being sick, allergy related. My kids, my daughter got the flu. Both my kids then got sinus infection. So it's now just starting to get back into the groove of things.
So my first week in Michigan.
Yeah, Rick completely lost his voice. Completely. He wasn't going to answer my phone.
Literally tried hanging. I called him to have a conversation one day, and he was just like, "All right, you can't talk. This is just text."
Yeah, I'm like, I'm hanging up.
It was bad, and it all stemmed from an ear infection.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. So anyway,
we want to talk with Chris about what he did recently because I'm super interested in the surrounding to get to that.
Yes.
The reason he's our guest this week.
Hey, Chris. So we're here because this particular episode is going to run the week of November 22nd. And
Does anybody in podcast land know what that week is?
Yeah, does anyone know what happened on November 22nd? Podcast land out there?
Anyone?
Comment, subscribe.
Wait, we're not live. We're not going to get feedback.
Yeah. Oh, well. I mean, if we'd have been live, it'd have worked. But so something pretty significant happened on November 22nd in the country, in the history of America, and particularly where me and Rick live, which is Dallas, Texas. And Chris interviewed someone that participated in a lot of the stuff that went down back then. And I'm going to let you tell the story, Chris, real quick. Tell me how you knew him, how you set up the interview, all that kind of stuff. Because what we're going to do is this week on our YouTube channel, we're going to release the full-length interview that Chris did with this particular former reporter. So it's not going to be just, you're going to hear a couple sound bites today from it, but we're going to release the whole interview on YouTube as well. Awesome. And it's something Christopher did a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it was 2018. I was trying to put together a video for San Antonio's 300th anniversary. And so I wanted to talk to different people from the San Antonio area from different aspects, from political to news to just everything that made up San Antonio. And so I grew up watching the news, and I watched this man in particular. His name was Gary Delaune. And, I grew up watching him. So I really wanted to talk to him and just his perspective on San Antonio and how it's grown and his experience covering the news in San Antonio. So, I mean, first of all, he was truly like one of the nicest news people that I ever met. And when you met him, I mean, like when I met him for the first time, you felt like you knew him for years. He treated you as if y'all had been lifelong friends. And so just a quick background about him, he was born in Oklahoma. When he started getting into radio, he was working out in Los Angeles, Television City for CBS Radio, delivering mail. He got to know people in the business. And at the age of 25, he was offered a job to be a producer, director for a radio show out there. Later on, he moved to the Dallas area. He worked for WFAA Radio, covering news, high school football. And then he went to KLIF. And the same thing, doing news, sports. And he covered the Dallas Texans from 1960 to 1962 before they moved to Kansas City and became the Chiefs. So then in 63, he was the color man for a radio broadcast for the Cowboys.
I forgot that the Chiefs started here. I forgot that.
Yeah, I totally
forgot that. I knew that, but I forgot, yeah.
Right.
And then he worked at Channel 4, which back then when he was there was KRLD before it was KDFW. Then he moved over to Houston for a few years. He was the voice of at the Astrodome for a lot of the events they had there. Then he finally made his way to San Antonio with Spurs for the radio broadcast in the early 70s. And then he spent the next 28 years, I think it was 1979, he started at KENS TV. And was there for 28 years. And that's where I grew up, watching him on Channel 5. And so he was so nice. He invited me to his house for the interview. I spent a couple hours there. We looked at old pictures that he had and just an amazing life story of the things he went through. But more specifically, to me, one of the most interesting things that he covered was the JFK assassination. And, we've got some clips here, like you mentioned, Greg, that we're going to play. The first one, Gary's talking about he's working at the radio station and he first learns about shots being fired at the motorcade, and then he proceeds to make an on-air announcement.
And I get a call on the phone hotline. The rule was we always started the big 24-hour tape machine whenever you had a phone call in the newsroom. I said, Delaune, KLIF News, and the caller said, what do you know about shots being fired at the motorcade with Kennedy and Conley being hit? I don't know, but I'll find out. Well, Number one, I didn't start the tape as was directed, as I should have done. Number two, I didn't say, who is this? I didn't find out who it was. But I did call the police department, my contact, Dorothy Plimpton. She said, yes, we do have report. Well, I went on the air with it. I think my bulletin was at 12:33, I'm not sure, but I interrupted a song called I Have a Boyfriend.
This KLIF bulletin from Dallas, 3 shots reportedly were fired at the motorcade of President Kennedy today near the downtown section. KLIF News is checking out the report. We will have further reports. Stay tuned.
Wow.
That's like, I got tingles, dude.
I know, dude.
Like goosebumps from
Wow.
like, to hear him talk about that and then to be able to play the clip from it. It's like you can almost just, I could imagine being a motorist driving and like listening to the radio today and hearing something like that. But like to hear it then, it had to be like, wait, what? Like on a different level. Like now we can whip out our phone and have that information like that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, keep talking. And they're like going back to your song. You're like, no, keep talking. You know, it's like information's so different now to then. And obviously he didn't know anything more than shots were fired.
Right. And can you guys imagine, each of us have worked in, at TV stations and covered various news events, but can you imagine covering this back in the 60s? The country is focused on Dallas. From our perspective, from the jobs that we would have done, as a news gathering organization, to cover everything that transpired, in those 4 days in November,
Right.
For me would have been the experience of a lifetime.
Experience of a lifetime is an understatement. I mean, it's to go through that in the way it was is just, it's, I don't know if mind-boggling is the right term. I mean, you're right. It would absolutely be the experience of a lifetime. I mean, for people that have covered different huge events, I'm trying to think of any. I don't even think I've covered anything that quite compares to something on that magnitude. The closest for me would be covering Katrina, but on the Michigan side when all the people came to Michigan.
Right.
Wow. But that's so, and this is so much bigger. But the fact that he had the audio is so awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And how think about also how, at least in my opinion, I think the way they brought live news to the public changed after that, because they were on the air for hours and hours on a national scale that it hadn't happened before.
As Dennis Leary said in his stand-up comedy routine, we watched Lee Harvey Oswald get shot live on TV one Sunday morning, and we didn't change the channel for the next 30 years because it did change. It became so much of a, they're moving Oswald and he gets shot on national television. It's like, wait a minute, what? And it's like all of a sudden there's this hunger for like, how fast can we get this information
Live?
Like, and that became a big pushing point. Is they wanted to know, people wanted to get information quicker, and I think that was as much as what like Walter Cronkite and those guys did for news when it from the modern era. I mean, not modern era, but original news era to like what it became. It's like the legitimacy and the speed of which people wanted information. But they wanted good information, not just fast.
Right.
Oh. So tell us more about your conversation with him. I'm so curious to know. I want to know more about the person. Like, I want to know more about him. Like, what, for you as a person who got into news and you said you grew up watching him, was he the guy that made you go, I want to do this?
Honestly, no, only because back then, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a meteorologist. So he was more news and sports. But, he, at least to me, was the ideal professional, hard, straight facts. He's not going to BS you type of newsman. And
Gotcha.
He mentions it in not in one of these clips, but in the full interview. He talks about how he said that news journalists today don't understand how you have to nurture and you have to protect and you have to, your sources, it's different now. And he says people, journalists don't realize it now that you got to, take care of these people that are providing you with information.
I'll argue that the good ones know that.
Yeah.
The good ones know that. So, wow, that's awesome.
In this next clip, he talks about Jack Ruby and how Gary was at police headquarters, downtown Dallas, and Gary was he was at the radio station that Gary worked at and just kind of being a nuisance. And they were like, hey, Gary needs some food. Can you go get him some lunch? So this took place later that day after JFK, had already been, assassinated. But it's before Ruby kills Oswald.
Jack was making a nuisance of himself. Because he wanted to be a big shot. KLIF News, Jack Ruby, can I help you? He started answering the phone. But so did everybody else, salespeople, the clerks and the girls and everything. So somebody said, to get rid of him, he said, what can I do? What can I do? Gary Delaune's been at the police department for hours. Can you take him something to eat or drink? Yeah. Well, Jack goes out to the delicatessen on Cedar Springs. And he gets, I didn't know for years what kind of sandwich it was he was trying to bring me. He ordered a sack full of corned beef sandwiches. And so he leaves the barbecue and goes to the police department and somehow found his way down to the basement. I'm on the third floor making reports from the press room. He goes into the basement where the lineup room is, and he started asking about me, where I was, and nobody said anything. So he saw him bringing in Lee Harvey Oswald. And there are pictures of Jack in some of the video where he's in the back of the room, he's looking at Lee Harvey Oswald. So he said that's when he first started thinking about Jim Lavelle, who was handcuffed to Oswald, and the investigator for both the Kennedy shooting and the shooting of J.D. Tippit. He said, Jack, why did you do it? He said, because I wanted to kill that SOB to avenge Jackie Kennedy.
My level of questions right there is almost kind of crazy because it's like, hang on a second. Jack Ruby wait, what? He did what? It blows all the, like, my perception of Jack Ruby, I've always firmly believed the Chicago Mafia had him involved, and he was set from the get-go that he's going to get shot, you're going to be there, you're going to kill, like, it was all planned. And now I'm hearing this and I'm thinking, maybe it wasn't. Like, maybe he did just decide to do this on the fly.
Yeah. And, I guess from Gary's perspective, well, I don't know if it's his perspective, but just to be someone you worked in news, to you, it's just Jack Ruby. He's just being a nuisance. He's just whatever. But then what he eventually does, and it's like, I don't know how you would feel. Like, I knew this guy and he just did this on live TV.
Word of the day.
Word of the day.
I like it.
All right. Well, that is now officially word of the day.
Intro music for word of the day.
And the word is? Rick's, well, who's coming up with a word? Not me. We had that little discussion about it's kind of what we do almost, except we don't do it exactly in the way this is used. But look live. Oh. When something's called a look live,
Yeah.
What does that mean when you say here look live?
So for the way I always looked at it is when you're doing a package in the field with a reporter, they tend to be typically live. So usually it's them standing in front of a camera that is sending a live signal back to the station. In this case, we've recorded it ahead of time and we're sending it back and making it look like it is live. So the reporter doesn't say we're live. They don't literally use the words live because it's a lie, but it's made to make the audience, hey, we were here, but like an hour ago.
Right. I mean, it's obvious, obviously, when it's a look live and
the weather, the sky has changed.
Yeah, that's dark.
Yeah, when they recorded
it's
it noon,
cloudy.
They recorded at noon, and then time has changed, and they played at 6 o'clock.
Right.
Those are the more obvious ones.
But anyway, that's a look live, and then the whole reason I brought it up is because this particular event that we're talking about, I mean, kind of is what where live coverage
exclusively
began. Like from that day forward, people wanted to see things in the moment.
It's kind of like the word news changed, because news was like new information, like, you know, it's new with S. It's like it's new information. It's like, but now it's like they want it so new, they want it when it happens. So it's like, and that, you know, obviously it's changed drastically even over the years for us, but like when you see someone get shot live on TV one Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I can't remember what day it was, all of a sudden everybody wants to, like, wait, what happened? And they want to see it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's crazy. The whole thing around JFK is so interesting to me. Just that even still to this day, they're still like, well, who did it? Like, that still is interesting to me.
So many,
you know, was it
ideas.
Was it the Chicago Mafia? Was it Oswald acting alone? Was it Oswald in relation with other people? Is it, you know,
the Cuban missile?
Yeah.
Like the Russians.
Yeah.
I mean, so many.
To me,
That's the thing about this story. There's so many webs wrapped around. All of it.
Chicago Mafia makes the most sense to me, because they were so angry with him for helping him get in office, and then
were they angrier at him than his brother?
They were very mad. No, they were mad at him because it helped him get him elected. And then as soon as he got elected, he turned the Kennedys in general, turned their back on them.
I feel like they would have been more mad at his brother.
I mean, Bobby didn't survive much longer afterwards either. So
yeah, but
you know.
I don't think the person that did it had anything to do with it. But then again, who knows?
No one took a shot at Teddy. That's weird.
Yeah. So anyway, this is the end of part 1.
Yeah.
We're going to give you part 2 of this, and there's 2 more great sound bites. In fact, they're probably better than the first 2.
Yeah.
And then, of course, go to YouTube. If you're already watching this on YouTube, when part 2 comes out, you'll also have the ability to watch the full length 12.5 minute.
Yeah. Please share.
Yeah, I mean, this has never been put out there. I mean, Chris said he put it out on YouTube a long time ago right after he did it, but it's really not had a place to live.
Yeah.
And if you're into JFK history and all that, this is an interview to listen to.
And if you don't share these podcasts, at least share that story, like the 12-minute story, please.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to find it anywhere else.
No,
I promise you.
Good.
You won't. And anyway, so with that, we're out of here, right?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out in logistic land. Are we doing this right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're doing the ending after we did the beginning.
Yeah, it's all good. Whatever.
Goodbye, subscribe.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you.